Hey, everybody, this is Ramon Ray, founder of smarthustle.com. Thanks for listening to another exciting podcast, video, etc. I'm here with Brock Blake, who's the founder and CEO of Lendio. Is that right, Brock?
That's right.
I froze up there. Of Lendio. Brock, thanks for being with us. As we tape this, we're almost in February 2021, Brock. The second phase, I believe it is, of PPP, and you'll correct me on this in a minute, has just, as it were, launched. Small businesses are in panic. Some are doing okay. There's gazillions of people rushing to you and other partners who are doing this. I'd be curious, I think, Brock, to me, I'd love to talk about, one, can you give us a recap about PPP in general, what you can share? And two, what's Lendio doing? So one, in general, those listening about PPP, and I think we can go SBA, I think, and others have some good resources, but I'm sure you all do too. So PPP in general, and then Lendio and PPP. So take the floor and share with us.
Well, thanks for having me, Ramon. I appreciate it. First and foremost, let me just give a little bit of background. Lendio is the largest marketplace in the United States for business loans. So we're not a lender ourselves, but we work with over 300 lenders across the country to help business owners. So it's kind of like Kayak for flights or Expedia for hotels or Yelp for restaurants. We do that for business loans. It gives a chance to go to one place and comparison shop multiple loan options. And one of those loan options is the Paycheck Protection Program. Last round, we helped over 115,000 businesses secure about $8 billion of loans.
You need to say that slow when you say that, Brock. Say that. You need to, like a highlighter. I talked to one lady. She's like, I climbed 4 mountains and kept talking. I said, no, stop. You just said you climbed 4 mountains. Continue on.
Right? Yeah, over 115,000 for $8 billion with a B dollars. So it was one of the most meaningful things I've ever done in my career. Seriously, the stories of these business owners and what they were going through at the time, and so much chaos and fear and anxiety, and to be able to make a little bit of a difference and keep their doors open was incredible. We have estimates that we saved over 1.2 million jobs in the U.S. Through that experience. And so, the last few months we've been gearing up for what we anticipated would be a round two. And Congress kind of was playing politics for so long, going back and forth, and all of a sudden they pass it and they're like, all right, 1 week, we're starting. And, I think people think, well, you did it in round one, so what's the problem? You're ready for round two. And the thing is that it's round two adds more complexities. There's additional rules. There's now 2 different types of loans. There's different reviews that you have to do and validation checks on every single file before it goes to the SBA. And so anyways, we turned on our application. We had thousands of borrowers coming in the door. We started reviewing, and we realized, you know what, we have a good process, but we need a lot more people. As a fintech, you build a lot of it in technology, but the SBA pretty much requires that you review every file by hand. And so we've been scrambling to meet the demand. We've hired and onboarded over 1,000 new team members at Lendio in the last 2 weeks, and all working from home. So the logistics of that, hiring or buying 1,000 computers from Dell is not an easy thing, like overnight, and then going through background checks and screening and training and onboarding and get them on your systems and helping them learn about PPP loans and make sure you take care of our customers. And so that's been a really significant heavy lift for us. But I feel like we're finally kind of starting to catch our groove, and we. To put that into perspective, we helped yesterday, we submitted right around 2,000 loan applications to the SBA just yesterday.
Wow.
And that will accelerate. I think we'll get probably to maybe 10,000 loans a day here over the next week or two. And so, this is a significantly heavy lift, but what is most important is that if you put yourself in the shoes of the business owner and what they're going through, and the anxiety they feel around have to possibly shut their doors or not be able to make payroll, all of that, when you realize what you're doing, this isn't selling widgets or anything. This is like put your Superman cape on, because there's people that need our help.
Yes.
And that's what I love about this. It's the most challenging thing. It is so complex. it's hard to even describe how complex it is to help every business owner, and tax documents and bank statements and reviewing the files and payroll calculations.
And keeping
But
it all
it's worth it.
secure, as you mentioned. I mean, that must be, it's not like
Yeah.
you're selling hot dogs, oh, one drop, throw it
Right.
away. No.
Yep. Yeah, it is. And that's a big part of it. So anyways, we're in the thick of it. We got our sleeves rolled up, and we're up for the challenge, though. We're trying to make it happen.
A few things, Brock, I want to underline. And again, so grateful for your time today. I know you're in the midst of serving millions, as it were, of small businesses. So thank you for taking the time for Smart Hustle and me. Can you just help recap the process? Lendio, you mentioned the term, but forgive me, is the aggregator, brings everything together. The bank has the money. SBA, though, has to go to them first to say, okay. Can you just clarify that high-level process?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So business owner comes to Lendio and completes an application and uploads, including all their documentation. So identification, driver's license or passport, the tax documents, the payroll documents, usually a bank statement or something that proves they were in business on February 15th, kind of all of that documentation. And then we review all of that to validate that the information is correct, that the payroll numbers all match, that, reducing fraud and all of those things that are required. And then we send that full application to the lender, who then has connections to the SBA. So it goes to the lender and then it goes to the SBA. The SBA will have, what they're doing differently this time is that they are providing, they are doing a kind of a fraud check on their own. So last round we would get an immediate response. Our technology connects the lender to the SBA, so we have visibility into those submissions. So last time we'd get immediate response from the SBA. It was either approved or declined. This time it's taken on average about 57 hours for when the lender submits it to the SBA for them to go do their fraud checks and everything else, and then turn back an approval, a soft decline, or a decline. Soft decline, maybe, hey, right now we can't approve it, but if you change, items 1, 2, and 3, we can. So once the application comes back from the SBA, the next step then is there's one more. The lender has a responsibility to do one more fraud check, which is, it's called Know Your Customer. Like, is the person who they say they are, stuff like that. And then once it passes that, it goes to a contracting. So once the contract's signed, then the lender can fund it. So there's a bunch of different stages along the way. And, there's first draw loan, which means, you just basically have to attest that your business has been under duress. And then there's second draw loans, which means that you meet all the criteria of the SBA, plus show that your business has at least a 25% reduction in revenue from 2019 to 2020. Got it. So anyways, I just threw a lot at you.
We got it.
But it's a great program. It really is. The SBA, they're punching way above their weight class. Last time I was really critical of them, but this is a great program for small businesses. And
modulated your words a bit. The first time he was like, those guys. This time he's like, okay, we'll cut him some slack there.
Yeah, for sure.
Brock, help me understand. I have two questions I'm going to ask about your team, executive team, and yourself. How do you stay fit, stay healthy? If you have kids, kiss them, whatever. And maybe life is in seasons, as I tell my family. Some days dad or single, whoever you are, this season, this week, I won't be here. So, but can you talk, you personally, a lot on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Any tips? Do you just read, I don't know, Brian Tracy every night, or put ocean waves in your ear? How do you deal with yourself?
Well, it is tough right now. Married with 4 kids, and I think last time for the first 6 weeks of PPP, I was no joke. Sometimes you say you work 20 hours a week, like legit 7 days a week, 20 hours. And I barely had time to shower. I didn't have time. Like, I just was literally cranking every single day, like every hour of the day. And I'd go to sleep and I'd wake up and there was customers to respond to and things to do. And it was such a challenge.
Right.
This time we're a little bit more prepared. And so it is still the complexity of the challenge is still there.
Sure.
But we've got a lot more team members that have experience and are now kind of taking on some of that responsibility. So generally, for me, I read a book called High Performance Habits, and I kind of had some of these thoughts prior to reading that book. But basically, it talks about, they did a study of all these extremely highly successful people, and it's not just highly successful in their career, highly successful with the relationships with their family members and friends and everything else, and health and fitness, and it talks about building your life program into like, what are the things that matter most to you, and then building a system that you can sustain. There's like fad diets where you go lose 20 pounds, but you can't sustain that over a long period of time. And so for me, I kind of built this system that works for me in the way I eat and the way I exercise every day, and I meditate in the morning and read my my scriptures, and I have date night with my wife, and I make it home for dinner. But so there's a few things that are like I try and keep into my system. But when I get home and I eat dinner, I might have to jump right back on and work, and so and it's not always like that, but
It's seasonal. I get it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just try, for me, and I'm not perfect at it, and I have a long ways to go, but it's something that I've kind of refined over time that helps me to execute, in the responsibilities as a leader, but also spend time with those that mean the most to me, which is my wife and kids.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that, Brock. And I have 1,000 more questions I want to ask you, but I want you to get back to helping America's small businesses. So one more question I have, Brock, and again, thank you, is that what's your relationship with your, whoever they may be, however many it is not important to this conversation, but your direct reports, those you rely on to execute for Lendio. What is that like? Are there common questions you're asking them? Are you the one giving them a proverbial bottle of water? Mary, stay at your desk. I'll bring you the water. Can you give a metaphorical example of how you work with your team? Because hiring 1,000 people, I'm sure you're not interviewing all 1,000 people. You probably,
no.
I've interviewed leaders, need to make sure that Becky and Mindy and whoever has the money and the resources. So help walk us through what that looks like for other leaders watching this. How do you support your team so they trust you and you guys can do that, if that makes sense?
Such an amazing team. My team is so talented. They inspire me every single day, their ability to execute. And so really kind of way it works is, I lead vision and strategy and culture. And, especially right now, it's a fast pace. And so, and then their responsibility is like, we talk about, okay, this is how we're going to execute it, and this is what it's going to mean, and kind of all get on the same page. And then I have Ben Davis, who's over all of our revenue teams. He goes and executes, and Trent Miskin, who's over our product and engineering team, and they go and execute. And so they're leading big teams, but their responsibility is like executing on the strategy and making it happen. And they are so talented at that. And so we have a good thing going where, and I'm not afraid to jump, I definitely roll up my sleeves and get my hands dirty, and there's nothing that is below me. And I mean, it's just right now, everyone is all hands on deck to solve these problems and build out the data and the reports and help customers and all that. So that's kind of how it goes, and during a normal course of business where it's not so urgent, they're probably less in execution and more in leadership of the execution. So we have a C-suite who's kind of strategy, and then a vice president level that is more day-to-day execution.
Got it. No, that's powerful. Brock, listen, I don't need to know the detail, but what does your calendar look like today? Like, is it like after this, you got another call, you got 10 calls, meetings? What's your day like? Have you showered already yet? Or like, are you in shorts underneath the video camera? What's your day like today?
Fortunately, it was 5 a.m. this morning. I
Okay.
played early morning basketball to get my workout in, and then was able, and then do my personal study and meditation time, and get the kids off to school, and so then it's literally every minute back to back the rest of the day, until it's time for for me to come home and have dinner, and then I normally right now it is a few hours in the evening,
Sure.
recapping the day, what happened, what worked, what didn't work, how do we tweak, how do we adjust. So much of leadership in a crisis, and it's not necessarily, I don't want to say we're in a crisis, but
I
the
understand.
moment is a crisis,
Yes, it is.
is you have to over communicate.
Mhm.
And so, like, there's so many teams moving so fast trying to solve so many problems. You have to be able to pull this and send updates to a large group. This is what's going on, and then grab this over here and update, and just keep that communication going as fast as you possibly can, so that people have the information to make the right decisions. And so at night, it's so much, okay, this is what happened today, this is where we're at, this is what needs to, defining our top three for the next day, and trying to get a sense of what worked, what didn't, okay, what are the problems we need to solve,
Yeah.
and just trying to, like, do it as fast as you can, keep the trains moving.
No, I appreciate that. And Brock, I know you're a person of faith, as I am deeply as well. So I know that keeps us both grounded in some way. Those who are not, that's fine. But those who are, I know those who
No
are listening
question.
will understand the power of that as well. So I'm with you there. But Brock, listen, it's been great to talk to you. Thank you. Even during this big rush, you're probably going to run off, get a sip of water, and 10 or 20 more meetings. But Brock Blake, founder and CEO of Lendio, one of the pillars helping American small businesses always, but especially during this crunch time that we're all facing. Thank you, Brock, for your time and for spending some of it with us.
My pleasure. Thanks, Ramon. Appreciate you having me on.
You're welcome.